everyone, good evening. I'm Shreya Dhondia. The WHO is now confirming what epidemiologists have been saying for the last 2 weeks. COVID-19 vaccines may be less effective against Omicron, but more data is needed to establish by what margin it evades immunity. Now, South Africa, the country where the Omicron variant was first detected, studied data from 78,000 people who could have been infected with the Omicron variant and found that half of them were fully vaccinated, that they had got both doses of the Pfizer vaccine. The study has also found that the vaccine's effectiveness drops down to just 30% for Omicron. It's 80% for the Delta variant, which means the Pfizer vaccine reduces a person's risk of getting infected by 30% compared to someone who has not been immunized, which clearly shows that there will be breakthrough infections. In fact, that is what is happening not just in South Africa, but across the world and here in India as well. But the vaccine is working. According to the study, the vaccine is working to keep people out of hospital. So is a third shot the best way to keep Omicron away? Japan has just become the latest country to sanction booster doses. India has reported 7,000 cases today, which is 20% more than yesterday. Is this a sign of things to come? Perhaps. But again, WHO is saying there is very little evidence to say if boosters actually work. Dr. Krishna Ella of Bharat Biotech is joining us in a bit to talk about boosters and whether that should be our next step. But before that, some questions. Is the booster shot same as your first 2 jabs of vaccine? And how do boosters actually work? What do they do to your body? Take a look.
The Omicron wave is consuming country after country, 77 so far. After the UK reported the first death by Omicron, the rush for boosters has increased. Countries are scaling up vaccine drives, but India is still on the fence about it. India has reported 60 Omicron cases so far. That number will likely blow up soon. So when it comes to Omicron, why do boosters work if 2 doses struggle? While the contents of the syringe may be identical, a booster is not just more of the same for the immune system. It is argued that a third dose is needed to boost antibodies from vaccines that tend to dip over time, even though 2 doses hold up pretty well when it comes to severe illness. Every dose of the vaccine triggers another round of antibody evolution within the immune system, which means like the virus, your antibodies are also getting fiercer. The protection you're left with after the third dose is bigger, broader and more memorable than you had before. Not just the quality, but also the quantity of antibodies rise after a booster. Early studies indicate that boosted immunity after a third dose wanes slower than after 2 doses. EU agencies have also endorsed a mix and match of COVID-19 vaccines. A mix of vector and mRNA regimens is supported by data, but there is need for more research in immunosuppressed people. But why is India still not riding the booster wave? There isn't enough data to gauge the efficacy of boosters from countries that have started administering the third dose. Indian experts believe that a third dose won't fully protect against the Omicron variant. In countries like the US and Israel that have administered boosters, infections with the Omicron variant have been observed.
एंटीबॉडी रिस्पांस नापा जा सकता है कि जिसमें गिर रहा है, उस पे डेटा देखा गया है कि 9 महीने 1 साल तक कामयाब हैं वैक्सीन्स. तो ये वेरीज फ्रॉम इंडिविजुअल टू इंडिविजुअल, और इस पे जो हम लोग ने एंटीबॉडी रिस्पांस देखी है वो साल भर तक परसिस्ट की है कईयों में इन्फेक्शन के बाद. तो वही डेटा को एक्स्ट्रापोलेट करके कहा जा सकता है.
So while Omicron is squirming away in our immune system, each vaccine dose and each infection is giving our body's defenses more tools to hunt it down. No vaccine can provide absolute protection, but a booster will ensure that if a reinfection happens, it will be mild. The evidence is building up, boosting the case for a third dose. Will India give in? With Runjun Sharma, Natasha Menden for CNN News 18.
Can India dismiss boosters outright given that countries across the world are pushing ahead with it? India has reported 7,000 cases today, which is 20% more than yesterday. 60 people so far have been detected with the Omicron variant. The youngest is a 7-year-old in Bengal who travelled from Hyderabad. His parents, just by the way, are COVID negative. Is it a sign of things to come? And are boosters the only way out? Opinion in India is divided. Take a look.
In the war against a virus that's constantly evolving, does your vaccine have to evolve as well? The West says yes, emphatically.
Do not wait. Go get your booster.
Should I wait to get that boost? And the answer is no.
But India is circumspect.
बूस्टर डोज के संदर्भ में हमारे एक्सपर्ट टीम ही तय करेगी और जो भी मार्गदर्शन हमारे एक्सपर्ट और साइंटिफिक हमें मार्गदर्शन मिलेगा, इस साइंटिफिक मार्गदर्शन के आधार पर हम आगे चलेंगे.
As Omicron cases spiral out of control in Europe and America, experts are cautioning that it's only a matter of time before the tidal wave hits us. But the debate rages on whether boosters are our best bet against the variant.
There is a potential scenario that our vaccines may become ineffective. The changing nature of the variants remains valid. How soon can we create a vaccine which is using the same platform but is now targeted to the variant of the day? We have to be ready to be able to have a situation where resiliently we are able to modify the vaccines as they require.
The government's top genome sequencing authority goes a step further and says that early data shows Covishield isn't very effective against Omicron.
Those people who have only received 2 doses a long time ago and sufficient time has passed, maybe 6 months, 9 months, should be considered for a third dose, particularly if they're either elderly or have an immune problem, and even to my mind, healthcare workers.
So is customizing vaccines for each variant really the answer?
The best strategy is to boost with the vaccines that we have in hand, which are licensed, safe to use, and proven to be quite good in their overall coverage against all these mutant variants.
But top sources have told CNN News 18 that the center is still unconvinced over whether a booster dose really will be effective against the new variant, given that United States and Israel have reported cases despite rolling out boosters.
Let me be very clear. WHO is not against boosters. We are against inequity. Our main concern is to save lives everywhere.
To boost or not to boost, the government continues to deliberate, but the fear remains that Omicron will not leave us with much of a choice. Ritangshu Bhattacharya for CNN News 18.
Now, Omicron has spread to 77 countries, though the WHO is saying, given how fast it is moving, it has probably reached every country in the planet. 56% of the world is currently vaccinated with at least one shot. In low-income countries, that number is less than 8%, which is what gives the booster debate a moral angle as well. Should the rich get 3 shots when the poor are struggling to get even one? In any case, many countries who can afford it have already launched their booster programs. The first amongst them was the United States of America. We're just taking a quick look at that. The first amongst them was the United States of America, which is opened vaccination, which has opened boosters to every citizen who is fully vaccinated. So every adult who's got 2 doses in America is eligible for a 3rd dose as well. Canada, again, boosters for immunocompromised individuals. But again, in different places, there are different rules. Alberta open to all fully jabbed adults, but that is not the case in other places. In a place like Ontario, boosters are only for people 50 and above, which means that they are prioritizing. The European Union, many countries here open to all adults. People aged between 40 to 80 are the ones who are getting priority, and for good reason, because when you roll out a program like this, you have to put out priorities. Let's take UK, booster for everyone above the age of 18. If you've been double vaccinated, you'll get a 3rd vaccine. Israel, one of the first countries to open booster shots for everyone. In fact, they're not just doing it for adults. They have opened booster shots for anyone above the age of 12. I'm going straight across to Dr. Krishna Ella, founder and chairperson of Bharat Biotech, to talk to him a bit about the boosters and Omicron. Dr. Ella, thank you very much. Always good to have you on the show. Omicron has now spread to 77 countries. It is in India. More than 60 people affected with the variant, including a 7-year-old child. Just how worried should we be? What is coming?
I think India should not be too much worried about it because evolutionarily, all these viruses will mutate and it bound to mutate. What will happen now, the way the mutation, 32 mutation that has happened, are not actually beneficial for the human being because it is not going to be that lethal. When you have so much mutation accumulates in one virus, not favorable, fitness of survival is not good for the virus. So naturally, my feeling is what will happen next, this mutant, what will happen is it may go to the animals now. Next, it might go to animal. So in a way, it's going to be less pathogenic because the way mutation happening in RBD region, and I expect that to be less because it's not going to attach to the receptor so well into the lungs. So you're going to have less pathogenicity and less virulence. And therefore, my feeling is not to be concerned about it. And I've been telling all the time, right, last 1.5 years, that these will mutate, nothing to worry about it.
Okay, but this is a very fast-spreading mutant, Dr. Ella, and it has spread to 77 countries. The WHO is telling us. The WHO is telling us that's on record. Given how fast the variant is traveling, it's probably reached every country in the planet. Then what do we make of these travel restrictions, not just in India, but across the world as well? Do they make any sense if the virus in any case is everywhere?
It is too excessive. And I think, the country putting a travel ban is not a right decision. And it is, I think it's getting into more, each government is getting under pressure to do something. And actually, which is not good. To be frank with you, if Omicron is going to change, replace the Delta, is good for the society. In a way, you're eliminating the more pathogenic virus out from the system and putting a less pathogenic into the society in a much more easier. So what you delay, you can delay maybe a month the disease. One person is enough in India. One person coming from Africa to India is enough to spread the entire country. So whatever you're doing, RT-PCR, all this, you can only delay 1 month the process, but you cannot stop the disease, and it will spread. And I think whatever the travel ban within the government, within the country and outside the country is not right. And I think it's more discriminative. And I think we should allow all the flights to fly. And with a little caution, that hospitals should be strengthened. Awareness should be more created to the people. When you get these sort of symptoms, please come to the doctor. All those sort of awareness to be created, not this sort of travel restrictions.
Dr. Ella, I'm getting back to the question of vaccines and how effective they are against the Omicron variant. The data that has been put out by the WHO, and this is latest data that is coming in, shows us that the effectiveness of vaccines does come down when it comes to the Omicron variant. In fact, there's a study that has been done in South Africa on 78,000 patients who could possibly be infected by Omicron, which is showing that at least half of them had been double vaccinated. In fact, they are also going on to show that the Pfizer vaccine gives you just 30% protection against the Omicron variant. Can I ask you in that context, since many people in India have got your vaccine, which is Covaxin, just how effective or ineffective is it against Omicron?
We don't have evidence yet. I just want to tell right on the face, because we don't have evidence yet, but we're working on that right now. Okay, we're working on that. We might have some soon data on that. So if you want me to hypothesize, yes. If you go by what world information is saying, and I think inactivated vaccine will be far better than any other vaccine because we're covering the entire virus, and particular region like a nucleoprotein that is present. 35% of the virus vaccine is nucleoprotein. That nucleoprotein where the mutation is not happening much, 1 or 2 mutation remaining, it's a housekeeping gene, nucleoprotein. If it mutates, virus itself cannot survive. So whatever the mutation is happening in the spike region, less of nucleoprotein. My feeling is nucleoprotein also produce immune response in this Covaxin and will give some protection against a variant. That is number one. Number two, we also shown with NIV partnership, alpha, beta, gamma, all the delta, all of them are neutralized with the Covaxin. With that previous evidence clearly shows there's every chance, possibility that it will protect the Omicron also.
Okay, so
but still we don't have evidence yet.
Okay, we are not fully sure because we don't have the evidence yet. But Dr. Ella, a debate has already started in India on booster doses. India continues to sit on the fence, but fact is the European Union has approved booster doses. They've already started administering them. Israel giving boosters to anyone above the age of 12. So is the United States of America, in fact, actively encouraging people to go and take boosters. I understand there is an ethical debate around it, but I want to ask you if, in your opinion, booster doses work and India should at least look at giving these booster doses to your frontline health workers and to the vulnerable, who just, by the way, were inoculated, some 6 or 8 months ago now.
No, it's a good question. And I think, just 2 days back, WHO's declared for the inactivated vaccine, that you need a booster dose. Okay. But we are also following up the phase 1 and phase 2 clinical participants, volunteers. We are following up their blood sample continuously. We have more than 6 months of data, 8 months of data. It's still present. And most important, Covaxin produced 2 immune responses, both T cell and B cell memory. So even circulating antibody like IgG, if it goes down, but you have 2 memory cells in the body with the Covaxin, and that is B cell and T cell. That memory will really give a protection. Okay. You may not have IgG. I don't know, I've seen so many friends of mine, every time they go into diagnostic lab, testing their IgG response in their blood sample, which is absolutely, they're paying 3,000, 4,000 rupees, but they're hesitating to take a vaccine. And I think, you don't need that because IgG is, it may wane down, but then you have T cell and B cell responses. Clearly will give you protection for the body. So not to be worried about it, even it wanes, but still I consider booster dose based on WHO recommendation for inactivated. They're given only indication for inactivated vaccine. We are part of that inactivated vaccine, particularly comorbid people and healthcare workers. I think they deserve 1 dose, third dose.
Okay. Dr. Ella, thank you very much for your time here on Debrief. Always good to speak to you and get your perspective. Thank you very much indeed. With that, I'm slipping into a quick break on the show. Up next, why South Africa has now decided that they need to start their booster program. This is the place where it all began as far as the Omicron virus is concerned. They now are announcing plans to begin rolling out the Pfizer booster shots. Why is it happening? When will it start? That's coming up next. Do stay with us. Welcome back. The place where it all began, South Africa, has just announced plans to begin rolling out Pfizer booster shots in the coming weeks as it struggles with the impact of the Omicron variant. But while new infections are on the rise, so is vaccine hesitancy. Take a look.
A procession of hearses drives through Soweto. No, it's not a funeral. They're just trying to scare people into getting vaccinated. Even death will not convince some South Africans to get a COVID-19 vaccine.
I think the government is trying to control us by using this vaccine.
The South African government says it has enough vaccines, but vaccine hesitancy that has been bubbling under the surface has spilled into the open.
Young people, we won't take it unless we have more information.
As South Africa enters its 4th wave of the pandemic, the country is considering making vaccines mandatory. More than 90,000 deaths and the fear of another hard lockdown has won some people over.
We can't be stuck like we are like locked in the cages. We can't do anything. We can't be living like this, man. Right. Why not? Why not? We are ultimately dead because we don't want to vaccinate.
South Africa plans to fully vaccinate at least 70% of the adult population by the end of the year, but the current rate is only about 38% and time is running out. There's spirited public debate in South Africa regarding vaccine mandates and vaccine passports, and those opposed to them are some of the loudest in the public sphere. But whether they like them or not, they're popping up across the nation. Some of South Africa's largest companies have announced vaccine mandates for their staff: get vaccinated, face testing, or risk getting fired. Influential members of the business, trade union, and civil society community support restrictions on the unvaccinated.
There is now a much stronger call to strengthen our existing provisions in legislation and regulation for it to be mandatory in workplaces, entry into big events like soccer matches, cultural events, and so on. Only vaccinated people should have entrance into that.
The University of the Witwatersrand, or WITS, is among a growing list of institutions that will require students and staff to be fully vaccinated, so it can restart some in-person classes in the first half of 2022 after nearly 2 years online.
Universities by themselves are aggregators of young people, right? And they've got the potential of becoming super spreaders. That there is broad support by the community. They feel that the university was bold and took decisive leadership action in helping the country get to the next side of COVID.
But student leaders at WITS oppose the school's vaccine mandate.
Our responsibilities as leaders of society is to ensure that our people, our students, are well informed in terms of their rights. In fact, they have a right to choose to say, can they be vaccinated or not?
A recent study found support for COVID mandates.
So what we've found is about half of the public support both vaccine mandates at workplaces and the introduction of vaccine passports. So vaccine passports to enter public spaces.
Though far from herd immunity, South Africa's vaccination rate is among the highest in Africa. The government and the private sector think they can do even better. Larry Madowo, CNN.
Vaccine hesitancy, not just an issue in South Africa, but a reality here in India as well. Over 55% Indians are double vaccinated, but one of the roadblocks that vaccinators are facing on the ground is vaccine hesitancy. Now, some good news. Amidst the emergence of the Omicron cases across the globe, researchers have found that adding a component of a viral protein in the COVID-19 vaccines can boost their immune response and also provide increased protection against all new variants, not just Omicron. The study has been published in the Cell Reports journal and is coming at a time when the World Health Organization is saying that the Omicron variant reduces the efficacy of existing COVID-19 vaccines, is also the most fast-spreading variant so far. It's a variant we are keeping track of right here on Debrief. But for the moment, it's a wrap from me. Thanks for watching and good night.